everyone. Welcome to the Gems of Life show. My name is Fadhwa, your host. I have today a special guest with me, Steve. Steve Ashton, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So, how have you been? We spoke a couple of weeks ago. How have you been since then?
We did. Life is great. It's obviously challenging nowadays, but it's been fantastic. There's just there are no complaints whatsoever. I don't know. I think you're the same type of person as me in that we hope to look for the positive wherever we can find it, and that carries us through the rockier times. So yeah, so things are good. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good, actually. Thank you. I've been busy since we last spoke. I've been really busy. And like you said, we got to find something. We got to find something with our time because it's very easy to get uh, refocused, right? And take your energy somewhere else when it's not serving you. So bring the focus back to the things that you really enjoy doing and the things that you love and use that time and energy to do that. So I've been busy.
And I understand that you have a new show too.
Yes, yes. I have another radio show that I'm hosting, and it's a live show, Steve. So I'm excited. Yeah, it's
Wow.
an hour. Yeah, it's I did my first live show this past Monday, so it's every Monday, 7 to 8, and it's called um, Love Bay Afro Radio Show. Something like that. I'm still getting used to it. It's new.
And
But I know
what
it's
is
Love Bay. Yeah, Love Bay Caribbean. It's an African Caribbean radio show.
okay?
And they play music, but also they have a lot of beautiful contents in there. They bring different speakers to come in and just share their gems. It's just an amazing opportunity. I love it. The people who own that, it's a couple, beautiful couple that own the radio show,
Okay.
and I love it. I love it.
What's it like working without a net? Because for a show like this, we have the benefit of editing. But when you're live, you're working completely without a net. What's that like? How did that feel the first time?
Oh, yeah. You know what happened? The first time that I did was 3 weeks prior to my live show. So I
Okay.
had a lady who came in. I was doing a workshop somewhere for women empowerment, and she happened to be in that workshop. She loved the workshop so much so she connected with me, and we started getting having conversation. Finally, she's like, "I want you here on my show. It's a live show coming." So the workshop I did was on a Thursday, and I went in on it was a Friday. I went in on a Saturday for her live show. And
Wow.
it was what I thought would be half an hour ended up being almost 2 hours live, Steve.
Good for you.
And that was my first live show ever. So you don't know what's coming, but you it's so engaging because people are sending messages, they're asking questions, they're commenting. So every time I'm thinking, okay, we're almost done. More messages. We want more. We want more. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you more.
Good for
you know,
you.
so the feedback was really positive. And then the second time I went in again, and it was again another live show, almost 2 hours again.
Wow.
And it was the feedback. I love that. I really enjoy that because you're getting that live feedback from the audience, the listeners.
Yeah.
That was the second time. So that really pumped me up. So when I launched my first show on Monday, it's going to be every Monday, 7 to 8. It was just like, okay, I already have a tribe here. I already have a people following that are listening to, and they were sending messages. They were sending
Wow.
messages. I will give time to listen in and I respond to those comments and feedback. So it's been amazing. I love it. I love because I'm a people person,
Of course.
and I've worked in the hospitality and service industry for almost my entire life. So I'm a person who loves working with people face to face. So
Yeah.
this is strange because it's good. I'm talking to you, which makes it even better. And when we put it out there, it's no longer live. So we're not getting that engagement, but
Right.
there's that engagement between me and you. And that also makes a huge difference. So I'm not just sitting here talking on a camera by myself.
It's interesting. I heard one of the best pieces of advice I got years ago when it came to business is someone said the most pure form of communication is that which you get back.
Mhm.
So in other words, if I let's take my business for example. So we are a print shop, wide format print shop, and and if I ask someone, what do you think I do? And they say, well, you sell business cards. Um, that's not their fault that they don't know the scope of what we do. It's mine. And and I think that receiving that sort of feedback, which is what's happening in your live show, you're getting that feedback right away. It's instantaneous. I think if you're open to it, and I think that's the most important thing, if you're open to it, you can understand, okay, this is a great way for me to improve what I'm doing. This is a great way for me to improve how I'm communicating. So, do we do business cards here? We can. That's not really the core of what we do or our greatest strength. But if that's your first go-to, then it's up to me to be able to learn how to communicate that a little bit better. But the in my opinion, the one of the really important things about this is keeping that open mind and keeping that. I mean, we don't know where these conversations are going to go, whether you're doing live radio or even an interview like this. We don't know where it's going to go. So if we can kind of release ourselves from any expectations and we can release ourselves from, you know, pre-planning what we're going to say, and we actually just remain open to whatever feedback we get, then it fosters more honest communication back and forth. And that's, in my opinion, that's how we learn more.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. Absolutely. And to be open to it, right? Because
yeah,
you don't know what's going to come your way. It's just like you put yourself in a place where you're dealing with a client or customers. You don't know what they will come with, So
yeah,
if you're dealing, how do you deal with that? So it cannot be different from me doing a live show or you standing in front of a customer. It's
yeah.
how is it that you present yourself and how willing are you and open to receiving that message, because that it's a feedback for you. And just like you, if
Absolutely.
somebody comes and says, oh, you're selling business card, then that's a feedback for you. It's a message telling you, okay, I need to do more.
Yeah. And the other part, which has helped me out in my marriage a lot, and in my relationships with other people, is to realize that if people have preconceived notions about you, or they have predefined reactions to certain stimuli, um, most of the time it predates your relationship with them. So I was speaking with someone yesterday from our Chamber of Commerce, and she gave me this incredible phrase, which is, when it's hysterical, it's historical, which I thought was such a good turn of phrase. So in other words, if I'm having a conversation with someone and they react in a really negative way to something that I've said, even if it's completely, especially if it's completely unintentional, then chances are that reaction predates this conversation. So I have triggered something in them that recalls something from their past that that they're reactive to. So I find that helps. It helps to remove your ego from the equation when you say, okay, this is something. It's a valid response because they have some, and we've all got them. We've all got triggers that harken us back to something else. Um, but recognizing that allows you to look at things a little bit less emotionally, and to pull yourself out of it and say, okay, obviously I have said or done something that didn't sit well with them. And like I say, this can be in business, it can be in your personal relationships. But now you can sit back and say, okay, I didn't mean for that to happen. Let's sort of dive down. We can figure out exactly where it comes from. Uh, and then maybe I can learn to communicate in a little bit more of an appropriate manner so as not to trigger them. And they can turn around and realize that, okay, maybe this wasn't intentional. Maybe this is just um, a reaction to something that predates this relationship. So when you can actually strip out that emotion from it and look at it almost empirically, it helps in terms of being able to communicate better, and then hopefully you get onto the same page, onto the same goal. So whatever the whatever the situation is, if you can diffuse the emotion first, then you can figure out where you're going, then you can move on from there. So again, it's sort of about getting rid of ego and getting rid of narcissism and just keeping yourself open to new ideas, open to new thoughts, and open to other people's emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you touched on something that I'm very passionate about, to be honest with you. I always talk about that, right? We mirror, we project who we are on the outside. And sometimes, you could be, the other person could be a trigger for you, or you could be triggered by something so small. And you, like you said, predates that relationship. And it could be that inner child. And I love talking about inner child. I think in every conversation, it could be that inner child within ourselves that has woken up and said, why did he say that? Or why did she do that? Right. So it's just being present and having that awareness of how we act. Are we responding or are we reacting? And the
Yeah.
best form is to be really present and have that awareness within ourselves, what our emotions and thoughts are, and what is the pattern as well.
And it's so interesting you say that. Last week, I was in a car dealership,
Mhm.
and and I'm considering getting a different car, which is actually a tough decision for me because right now I drive a Honda Civic that has 548,000 kilometers on it, and I love it, and it doesn't owe me anything. It's a great ride, but I'm also aware of the fact that at some point it will have an expiration date.
Mhm.
So I was in with a salesperson last week, and a nice person, a nice man, and we were having a conversation. It was my wife and I, and my wife says, "Does it come in blue?" And he said, "Nope, this just comes in black, gray, and white." And so we kept going on, loved the car, what have you. The next day, I did a little bit of homework, and I found that the car actually does come in blue. And it triggered something in me that I, I had to figure out why this person, in my opinion, or my emotion, was being dishonest with me.
Mhm.
So, why did he tell me? So, is he incentivized to only sell the ones that they have on the lot? Um, is this is it a tactic? All of these things were going through my head, and I spoke with a couple of different people about it, and I got a range from, oh, they probably are telling him that he has to sell the ones on the lot and he'll get a bigger bonus, right down to, why don't you just ask him? And that was one that came from my mom. Um, and so I drove back there this past week because I had some people say, look, you can get this car anywhere. Don't deal with them anymore. But that didn't sit right with me either. So I went there and I asked if he had a moment to walk around the lot and talk with me. So we did. We walked around the lot and we talked. And I said, look, I have to tell you, I had a great experience here, but one thing stood out and it bothered me. Um, when we asked if this car happened to come in blue, um, you said no, it's just black, two grays, and the white, the neutral colors. I said, but then when I did a little bit of homework the next day, I found out that it does actually come in blue. And I'm wondering, I need to understand why you would say that. And he said to me, did I actually say that to you? And I said, yes, you did. And he said, that doesn't make sense to me. He said, because I've sold this car in blue before. I know it comes in blue. It actually comes in red and it comes in white. And he said, honestly, and he said, I got to tell you, I don't remember this part of the conversation. He said, but all I can think of is that when your wife said, does it come in blue? I would have thought she said, do you have one in blue? And when he said that, it made sense because his answer was, no, it's just in black, the two grays, and the white.
Mhm.
And it was then everything that he had said was now in alignment with how our conversation originally was and how much I enjoyed dealing with him because he's a nice fella and what have you. And I'm very grateful that I got the advice that I did, particularly from my mom, who said, just ask. Just go and ask, which would mean dropping any ego or any preconceived notions and be able to sit back and say, okay, please help me understand what's happening here. And I believe him because everything that he said is in line with the way he was in our initial meeting. So it helped, and I will tell you that if and when the Civic decides that it's time for me to get a new car, I will be seeing him and I will be picking the car up from him. Um, and a lot of that is just because I thankfully I have good people in my world who can give me some good advice and say, get over yourself and find the truth.
Mhm.
Right, which is it, I don't know. I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's so powerful. Imagine had you not done that and you just let it just, it would have affected you because there's that mistrust. Why did he lie to me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So,
it's so easy to do nowadays too,
mhm,
because I went on the manufacturer's website, and next thing you know, I had someone from a different dealership saying, "Hey, I see that you're on our website. Do you want to come in for a test drive?" And it would have been very easy to leave the first guy behind and go to the next guy. But then I would have been carrying with me that preconceived notion that, okay, all these salespeople are dishonest. And so I would have had my back up when it came to the new person. And all they would have had to do is say one thing, and that would have triggered my reaction to the previous fella, which, getting back to it, it predates the relationship I would have had with the new one. Um, so yeah, it's such a great tool to be able to just sort of pull your own self-importance out of the way and make yourself vulnerable and ask for the truth.
the ego, remove the ego. And we are very too quick to judge others.
For sure.
We're just waiting for them to trip. We're waiting for them to make a mistake, right? And
Yep.
I think when we take off the table and say, okay, no judgment here, I'm going to be as vulnerable as they are and be able to and be willing enough to accept what's coming my way. And sometimes, like you had that conversation with a guy, he could have easily said, what do you mean? He could have easily, if he was not in his own organic way, authentic way, he could have easily said, I don't know what you're talking about. It
Yep.
denied completely,
Yep.
right? But he put himself in the most vulnerable position and be open and say, I don't even remember saying that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
when we're talking about this thing, and I keep thinking about it, and I'm thinking there are times that you're a business guy, a business owner, and I worked in the hospitality industry for many years in service. There are moments where you're going to get people who will try to drive you crazy and take you off the flow that you're in, the positive energy flow that you're in. What are the things that keep you focused? And I know you're trying really hard to work in this business because of the owners, previous owners had instilled really great values in this business. And that's what you work from. So what are those things that you actually do to help you fuel exactly what you do on a daily basis?
So you're absolutely right. The previous owners of this business uh, created the business with the sole purpose of delighting clients with service level and kindness. And they are pretty lofty shoes to fill, definitely. Uh, and you're right. There are times where you do get some clients who will push your buttons or test your boundaries. Um, I, I just try to keep in mind too that a lot of times the clients are operating under a set of pressures that I am completely unaware of. Uh, and I remember there was one day we had a client, and this is a client who's just a lovely man. Um, And he called me up one day, and I knew that the big bosses were coming in from head office, and they had just done an order of about 15 banner stands from us. And I got a call from him in the morning, and he didn't sound like himself, which was my very first clue that something may be awry. And he was very official, whereas usually it was, "Hey, Stevie, how are you?" And a conversation. It was, "Steve, the how did he word it? Uh, the quality of this work is unacceptable." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me what's going on?" And he said, "There's inconsistencies across each one of these banners. They're all different heights, and I need you to fix it." I said, "I'm happy to come in. So if you'll give me 10 minutes, I'll hang up the phone with you and I will drive to your office and we will figure out what we need to do." So I did. I drove to his office. And when I walked in, they had all 15 banner stands up, and he was standing there, and his bosses from head office were also there. And again, it was a tone of, and I don't want to say aggression because that would be far too dramatic, but he was reminding me that he was the client and the clients are right, and he wasn't wrong about that. So I had a quick look at all of the banner stands, and um, I said, would you indulge me for a moment? And he said, "Sure." So I picked up the short, and he was right. Like there were varied heights in all of them. So I picked up the shortest one, and I put it. I changed where it was located and put it beside the tallest one, and they were the same height. And as it turns out, their floor was uneven,
Mm.
and and we changed the order of a couple of them, and we saw that that's in fact what it was. So all of the stands were fine and what have you, but I could see the pain in his eyes because he had been obviously scolded by head office people. And so when he called me to say that the quality of the work was unacceptable, I pictured in my mind's eye, whether it was true or not, that his people were standing right over his shoulder listening to how he dealt with this vendor and to make sure that the vendor was able to put it right. And so when we showed up and we made sure that everything was fine and that it was actually the order of them on the floor as opposed to the hardware itself, um, you could see in his eyes that he was contrite. He was a little embarrassed, and I said, "This is it. This has happened before. You're not the first person that has had this, and maybe I should have warned you that we always have to make sure that they're at the same height on the floor, that the floor is the same height. Otherwise, it would look uneven," and kind of let him off the hook a little bit that way, um, because I know he was under an extreme amount of pressure, and it honestly it had nothing to do with me, nothing at all. So I mean, and that was me. I'll be completely honest. That was me having a good moment. Um, there are times where I'm not able to pull myself out of that, or someone drives without putting on their direction signal, and I'm like, "You jerk!" So it's not like I have the benefit of being super evolved all the time, but that was a win. That was a win. So in answer to your question, again, just sort of taking yourself out of it and uh, perhaps trying to employ a little empathy and understanding where these people are coming from, because most people um, they have to report to somebody, and we don't know what that dynamic is like. I mean, I've always said you never know in a marriage, you never know what happens behind closed doors. So you hear of people who you think that they're the perfect couple, and they all of a sudden announce that they're splitting or what have you. You don't know what that relationship is, and it's often when you find out after the fact what had been going on behind the scenes that you have that paradigm shift and you say, oh, so when we were talking about this and you reacted this way, that's probably because this was going on in your world. So we just don't know what's happening in other people's worlds. So if we are able to remind ourselves on a daily basis, we're here to serve and we're here to help people in their world, and that we don't know entirely what their world is like, then we can maybe take ourselves a little less seriously and remove that hurt or that emotion if someone comes down on you for quote unquote no good reason. So that was kind of a long answer to a short question.
No, it's basically what you're saying is don't take it personal.
Yeah.
Don't take it
Okay. Well,
right.
I could have then
Yeah,
used
no, no,
just
but I
four
love that.
words instead of 600.
No, no, but I love that because you gave no, you gave a really good example, right? You know, sometimes we will get people who will, he was under the pressure, and for you to be able to recognize that it wasn't your fault, right? If it was your fault, you would have taken ownership,
Oh, for sure.
right? But you were
Yep.
able to leave what you're doing, stop, and you went and to be there with them. That's value. Just being there, showing that they matter and that you're here to fix the issue,
Right. And
right?
and a lot of the time, thank you, by the way, and that does come from the Reeves attention to customer service and uh, just Andrew Reeve has a PhD in philosophy, so I love the way his mind works, and he just he tries to encourage people to just think a little bit differently about service in particular. And if you can if you can just remember that you're here to make people look good, then your job is going to be a lot easier and people will appreciate what you do a heck of a lot more, right? And so whether that's providing extra creativity or making sure that you are extra concise on a quote, saying this is what this includes, and uh, these are potential extra costs, so that there are no unwitting surprises. Um, because I don't like delivering unwitting surprises.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you talk about service. This is an area that I love myself, right? We're all serving others. We are in the business of serving others, and with that service, it's what's the value that you're bringing into? Because it could be serving, yeah, you're serving somebody, but what is the value in it, right? And that comes from passion. That comes from passion. That comes from you taking ownership and responsibility for what you have to offer. It's you believing that I have something within me that's so powerful, so inspirational, that I can break a person who is cold and frigid. I can just warm up their heart, and just bring that passion. And that's what I love. Like years ago, I don't know if I shared this with you. I used to work in Toronto at a boutique hotel. And it was about 11:59. I'm just about to leave, midnight almost. My last two guests were showing up. And these two guests, they were coming from overseas, and they were very well known where they were coming from. And there was potential actually for them to do some work with our hotel. So our general manager at that time spent days preparing the two rooms, putting all the stuff that you could imagine, in the room, flowers and fruit basket and gifts and things like that. So midnight, I'm just about to walk out. I see them. So I stayed back. I wanted to make sure that, I'm there to welcome them, make sure that I don't leave all the work for the other person, the other staff. I could easily have walked out and said, okay, bye, take care of them. But I felt like I needed to stay back. But to my surprise, they were not happy. They were not happy with the hotel. They were not happy. We were right downtown on King Street. They didn't like it the moment they walked out of the taxi from the airport.
Wow.
Yes, before they even entered the hotel, they were not happy because they saw a homeless guy outside the hotel sleeping in the street. So when she walked in, the other gentleman was still behind her. She walked in, she looks around, and this is a place, it's like my pride, my proud place to work, and I'm happy to be working there, right?
Okay.
And she walks in there and she says, I don't like it. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, she hasn't even seen the room yet. So I'm
Right.
already creating this story in my head at the moment, right? Oh my God. I'm thinking, okay, we've lost two rooms. That was the last two rooms I was going to sell. And we don't have a deposit. If they go, that's it. We lost two rooms, right? So I'm thinking about sale. At that moment, all the troubles my general manager went into to prepare. And then my service mindset kicked in. I said, okay, you're here to serve her. If she doesn't like it, you can force her, right? I tried, you know. Oh, I tried to sell what the hotel is, but it
Right.
doesn't matter. I could not, whatever I said would not make any sense because already she has what? A preconceived notion of this place already doesn't meet my standard. So she already had a standard, right? So when she walked into a hotel, we did not meet the standard. Even before I said a word. So it didn't make a difference what I had to say. And let me tell you, 10 minutes later, I had to get them a call, get them a cab, another taxi, walked outside with them, booked another hotel that's even higher end. I called King Edward Hotel.
Okay.
That's the one I called. I said, okay, maybe that's their standard, and I was prepared to make them happy so that they can go happy with good experiences, even though I knew it came at a cost.
Yeah.
And that's what service is. That's what value is. Sometimes you can't think about, there was a million thoughts coming in my head. Okay. I'm not saying I was just smiling. I was smiling, serving, but I kept thinking, okay, if this doesn't suit you, maybe you need to pack that original dream of yours, put it in your suitcase and take it wherever you want to take it with you. Of course, we're going to go through those thoughts, right? We are human beings.
Yep.
As long as it doesn't come out, right?
Yep.
And I delivered the service that I had to deliver because I knew that no matter what I did, what we said, it wasn't up to her standard. And that's the service, that's the value, knowing that you're passionate enough, be willing enough to go past your thoughts, your negative thoughts and the judgment, and be able to share and give new experiences for those you serve.
So if you were to be able to go back to you back then, what advice would you give yourself, or is there something that you would have changed about your interaction, or something different that you would have said to them?
If I go back, I always think about that moment. There was nothing I could have said that would have changed them to stay. Because the moment they walked into, because I'm not the building.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have the power to recreate the standard that they already had in their mind. So the moment they saw the homeless guy, I'm not in control of that. So I cannot control that, right? We're in Toronto, we're in downtown Toronto, and it's in the middle of the night. I'm not going to go about and wake him up. He was sleeping, right? So I have to think of him. I have to think of him as well, too, right? But for me, I always go back and I'm like, there's nothing I could do because the moment she walked in, she was already not happy. So she didn't even want to see the room. It would not make any difference, right?
So just out of curiosity, was her aversion to seeing the homeless person, was it that she was disgusted by it, or was it that she was upset that a hotel that specializes in luxury would allow someone in their neighborhood, in their community, to suffer?
I don't know. I think she was just plain and simple, but I don't know again, right? But to my understanding, when she walked out, she just looked and she was not happy. She was not happy. Like the moment she walked through the door, she was like, I'm not happy with this place. And she did mention you have somebody out there, right? So I don't think it was, if that was what bothered her, she saw a homeless guy lying in there, she could have done something that really bothered her. And if she wanted to be compassionate towards that person, she could have done something and said, you know what, can you just do this for him? Or rent a room for him and say, I'm going to pay for him. Gave him a room. If that was what. And that's what I always think. If you're worried about somebody and you want to be compassionate, you will do something to help them. Right.
Yep.
but it had nothing to do with it. It was just like, how dare I cannot walk into this place, so there's
Okay.
that ego and all that stuff, right?
So
Yeah.
it's interesting because a lot of what we've talked about today, and the reason why I asked you the question about what you suspected her motivation was, um, is because a lot of it comes down to, uh, as human beings, our ability to look for and to pick out inconsistencies and incongruencies and be able to going back to the conversation that I had with the car sales guy. um, Everything had gone really, really well except one thing. And honestly, it's not like color of a car is a make or break, but if the way he behaved was indicative of dishonesty or something that was incongruent with the way our conversation had gone, um, then that would be a flag to not use him. Uh, if if this lady, if her aversion, and we don't really know because we don't know, I don't know what her backstory is, but if seeing someone on the street made her sad
Hmm.
as opposed to disgusted, for example,
Hmm.
um, and that may be something that relates to wherever she came from or whatever her world is. Um, it would be a totally different conversation in terms of how to understand how to best serve than than if she's just, oh, that's gross and I'm better than this, right? And I find a lot of the times, um, if we can ask the questions and find out why people have a reaction, as they do, then we can find out the best way to serve.
Hmm.
I've been going through a couple of books by Simon Sinek recently. There was Leaders Eat Last, and of course Start with Why. And he talks a lot about, when you start with what your purpose is, what your why is, what your reason for being in business or being in a relationship or whatever it is, and then work your way outward to the how and the what. It's a lot more powerful and a lot more profound than if you start with the what, the object, the computer, the car, the whatever it is, and then work your way back in the buying process. And I find myself becoming, as I get a little bit older, in, increasingly more curious as to why people do what they do. So why the reaction to the homeless person, or why did you tell me that it's not available in blue, or why are you, coming at me in such a strong way, about these banners that are inconsistent, instead of what you would have done a week ago and called me up and go, Stevie, I think you got something going on here, and let's figure it out together, right? So I do find that asking the right questions and being able to figure out kind of why someone ticks the way they tick, that to me is the most fun. And that's a big part of, I guess, the soft side of sales and of running a business, whether it's with your coworkers. I mean, you can work with someone. Ryan and I have worked together for what, about 11 years now, and we think completely differently about most things. He is extraordinarily organized, and he's got a production mindset, and I'm a little here and there, and creative, right? I have the creative side, and that helps him, and he has the organizational side that helps me, and and it is a fantastic partnership because we come from different places. And there are times where he challenges my beliefs, and it drives me nuts. And there are times when I do the same to him, and it drives him nuts. But we are both super committed to making sure that at the end of the day, every discussion that we have is about how to best serve our clients, how to keep the legacy that the Reeves started alive, and how to make sure that our company is bigger than he and I, and that our company is one that when history is all written, it will show that we did well by our clients, and that our reputation is solid because we've operated with kindness. And so when you have a sort of a galvanizing goal and principle behind you, it makes it very easy to overlook personality differences or opinion differences because we're both working at the same thing. And I'll give you a quick example because I love stories.
Yes.
Um, so we had a big crate that had to be picked up from our shop, and the crate was 98 inches wide, and it housed a trade show booth that was worth a good chunk of money. So the shipping company showed up and they had a powered lift gate, uh, but there was no way because the powered lift gate was only 96 inches wide. So if you put it on the gate and you lifted it up, well, you couldn't turn it in and actually get it into the truck. So my creative brain started going crazy, and I recruited the help of one of our lovely neighbors here who has a forklift. And I said, would you feel comfortable if it was put not this way on it, but this way, right? So it's on the powered lift gate, and then you take your forklift, and then you just sort of lift it up and lift it up and lift it up and lift it up until eventually it gets all the way up, and then the forklift can push it in, and it's in there. And the guy said, "Yeah, I'm 100% confident." So of course I'm all proud of myself, and I come running into the shop, and I'm like, "Ryan, I've just saved the day. I'm so smart." Uh, and I said, this is what's going to happen. They're going to lift it up on the lift gate, and it's going to keep going and going and going, and then it'll be put in. And I'm so smart. And Ryan just said to me, "That's great if it works. What if it falls?" Oh, I hadn't thought about that. I got all excited about my idea, but he said, honestly, what if it falls? Are we going to go after the company that's really nice and is helping us with the forklift? No, it's certainly not the fault of the transport company because they're going according to what my idea came up with. He said, it just makes sense to send the transport company back to figure out because this is their responsibility. It's not really ours. And it would be really nice for us to help them out. But if the contents of that crate is $25,000, um, are you willing to bet $25,000 that an accident won't happen?
Mm.
And it it was such a reality check for me to say, you know what, you're absolutely right. And again, we're both looking at the same thing. We're both looking at making sure that this trade show booth got delivered and that it got there safely and that we weren't taking any undue risks with this client's investment. Because if it had broken, that would have sent them back only 4 weeks worth of production time, which they couldn't afford either. So because we were both working toward the same goal, it just made perfect sense that once he said, we're taking a risk here that we don't have to, and I don't think we should.
Mm.
Um, so as long as you have that galvanizing goal or that mantra or whatever it is that okay, we are here to delight our clients with service and kindness, then we can say, okay, well, what's going to best delight them, right? That's our why, that's our purpose. And as long as we're on board with that, we will have these disagreements and these times where I mess up or whatever. But if we don't doubt the intention and if we stay true to the intention, then we'll get through those little hiccup times. Because yeah, it's not always going to be perfect, and we do make our share of mistakes. I do, anyways.
Yeah.
Um, but sorry, I just keep going here. Um, I made a mistake quoting a job last year for a client, and when I realized it, I called them up and I said, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake quoting this job. And I said, and I know that um, I'm bound to this quote. So if you would like to hold me to this quote, then I will honor it. However, if there's anything that we can do about it, um, then I would really appreciate it because this is the price that it's supposed to be, and this is the price that I quoted you. And they were so gracious, and they said, you know what, mistakes happen. So yeah, by all means. So we met somewhere in the middle, and it was just it meant a lot. And on the flip side of that, about 2 months ago, that same client ordered a product from me, and they sent me the artwork, and they asked me to pick up their old hardware, which I did, and all that. And I looked at their artwork, and I realized that this was actually a project that we had already done for them, and we had completed it, but we did in March of last year, right at the beginning of COVID, and they haven't been in their offices since. So they forgot that it was ordered, produced, invoiced, and paid for. They had already cut us a new PO and said, "Here, we need this." And we could go back to them and say, "Hey, thank you for this, but are you aware that we already produced this for you last year? You had asked us for us in March, and is this is this an additional two, or did you just did it slip your brain?" And they said, "Oh my gosh, we didn't realize that it had already been done," and they canceled the order. But it's that sort of give and take, um, that when you're operating from a place of service and from a position of kindness, you foster those relationships, and it becomes less transactional. And I mean, they could have very well said, okay, you know what, you're going to have to honor your price. When I misquoted, and we would have, and we would have lost money, and it would have been, a little bit of self anger, what have you. Um, but they were kind, and they were understanding, and that pays dividends because, of course, we're going to look out for their best interest too. We always do. So, yeah, that was a couple little stories.
Yeah, no, I love stories. I love stories.
You do.
And you know what you're talking about, Steve, it's building relationship,
Yep.
strengthening relationships. You're not just thinking it's a one-time uh, service that you're offering, it's a long-term service. And that's how you win back your clients.
Yep.
That's how you get referrals from your clients.
Yep.
And if we stay true, just like what you did and you share the story, you stay true to you, to the service that you do, to your clients, being honest. And honesty is the best policy. You
Yep.
could
For
easily
sure.
said, yeah, sure, we'll take on and make a different order, take the money, and that's it, right? And that's where integrity comes in.
So when I first started, the very first interaction I had with the client at Reeve and Company, Andrew and Patsy still owned it, and we had a client of ours who had a banner stand that was broken.
Mm.
So they called me up because I had known them for years before that. They called up and said, "Hey, can you come check out this banner stand?" So I came in, I picked it up, brought it back to the shop. Turns out it just needed to be retensioned. Now, I knew how I would handle um, billing for this repair um, if it were my company, but it was not. So I went up to Andrew and I said, "Okay, when they ask what the charge will be for this, um, what should I tell them?" And he said to me, Steve, he said, "You got to go in and see them when you picked it up. You brought it back here. It didn't need any parts. It just needed to be retention. So we did that. Didn't take us long at all. And now you get to see them again when you drop it off. He says, I don't charge for that.
Mm.
And I thought, this is perfect. This is the perfect fit, because that's exactly what I would have done as well if I had been if I had the choice. So I came in and I dropped it off, and they said, okay, well, just send us the invoice. And I told them what Andrew said. I said, no, there's no charge for that. And about 2 weeks later, I get pulled into their offices because they were looking at um, this display system, and they had narrowed it down to two, and one of them was um, a really good quality product, and the other one was less so. And knowing how they operate, um, and that there are different people using it, it was the smart move for them to go for the more expensive one because it was more durable. But being in sales, one of the things that you really need to do is make sure that your clients know what your intentions are. And so it's very easy if you haven't built up a relationship or a level of trust. It would be very easy for someone to question, okay, oh, you just want the bigger sale on the more expensive unit, what have you. So I was delicately soft shoeing around and saying, okay, well, if you do this, then and justifying my and the purchaser, who was just a no nonsense, one of my favorite people, she said, Steve, would you quit the dance? She said, 2 weeks ago, you came in here and you fixed a 4-year-old banner stand. You didn't charge us a penny for it. We know you're not going to nickel and dime us. Just tell us the truth. I said, that's the best one to go for. She said, okay, we'll go for that one. Right. So, so anything that you do like that is an investment in your credibility.
Yes, it builds credibility,
Yep,
integrity, honesty, passion, all that it's one package. It comes all in one package, and we have the ability and capacity within us to actually deliver this kind of service.
absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I don't know. I do think that it really comes from um, just remaining human, and recognizing that, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a company buying from a company, right? It's a person buying a product or service from another person. And there's some, I mean, obviously there's some automation now with Amazon and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the products that we sell, um, people buying it from people. And those people, first of all, not everyone is going to want to buy from me because not everyone's going to like my particular style, and that's okay because I know I'm more of a relational seller and less of a transactional seller, and that's quite all right by me. Um, but also those people, they have a world that we are being exposed to, you know, 0.5% of their world in our interaction with them. And if we can start to understand a little bit better what is making their world orbit, and what they think and how they feel and what they believe, and that's a longer burn, but I would way rather earn a client than make a sale. And it's not about necessarily making new friends, but it's finding out how you can be of better service, right? And not just for your company's sake, but for the sake of you as a person. Um, when we first talked, Fadwa, you and I, about this show, we were talking about um, the topic of purpose, and what is your purpose and how do you find your purpose and all that. And it's funny because I racked my brain for a very long time to try to come up with something, profound. um, but really, the best definition of purpose that I could work out in my brain for me is it's the value that you bring to the world around you. And that involves your touch points with other people. Um, and it's so interesting because a lot of the time we don't recognize the impact or the value that we have in other people's lives. Um, but they derive that value or that impact when they see if you're acting in line with your why, with your belief, with your. I mean, one of my core beliefs is that people are good, and that may be a flawed assumption. I don't know. I don't mind because that is a core belief for me. Is that people are good and people are trying to do their best with the tools and skills and information that they have at the time. And so even if someone is completely polar opposite to you today, you never know. You could grow or they could. And at the end of the day, your impact, your value to their world, um, maybe something that you don't even really realize. Maybe you help them look at something in a different way, or maybe you just showed through who you are, um, that you can be a little bit more accepting or understanding. One of my best teachers in high school was a guy who he taught both sociology and math, which is two interesting subjects to combine. But the thing that made him my favorite teacher wasn't the his grasp on the curriculum or anything like that. It was the fact that he would engage in conversations without judgment. And someone would say one thing and then someone would have an opposing opinion, and he'd always say, "Okay, that's good. You're saying this and you're saying this. It doesn't make one right and one wrong. Let's just explore it." And I'm sure he has no idea of the impact that that had on my world and presumably the world of a bunch of people who would have taken his course. Um, but to me, that's part of his purpose in this world, is to show that life doesn't have to be black and white. There can be shades of gray and not just the movie, but variance in opinion and belief, which some of it is actually geographical in nature. Because if I was born in the Middle East, I would have a different set of opinions and beliefs than I do because I was born in Canada. So, and just being able to understand that, um, you can have um, a good effect on the world around you, right? And the world around you may be as big as the world around you, or it may just be the world that you live in. It could be the world of your family. It could be the world of your clients. It could be the world of your business community. Um,
Yes. You know, you talked on about passion and purpose. A few weeks ago, I was talking to this person, and I kept referring to professional life, my professional life, my personal life. And she looked at me, she said, "Why are you separating it? You're one person. You're not one person in your professional setting, and you're not a different person in your personal life. You're one person." And it hit me. Oh my goodness. Because I go to work, I wear this hat, right? I often said I wear many hats. So I go to work, I present myself in the most professional way, and I love what I do. And because I love working with people, so I just show up and be the best I can be. When I'm home, I show up and be the best I can be with my family. But I never thought of it in a way that I am one person. So how I show up at home is exactly how I'm going to show up at work. So that purpose and the sense of delivering and giving part of you or the whole of you, it's just that. you being you, being you yourself, showing up fully, showing that you're worth of experiencing what you're experiencing, and that you have that within you and capacity within you to share with others. And just that belief that, oh, what I do matters, what I
Yeah.
say matters, my presence matters, my knowledge, my expertise, whatever it is that you know, somebody else can benefit from it. So it's all about making impact. And through your purpose and passion, you're creating impact. And a lot of people, most of us, Steve, it took us a long time to find our purpose. Certainly for me, it took me a lot of years to find my purpose. But what I found was I was already doing previously what I was doing, I'm actually doing it now, but now it's more present because I've learned how to own it. I've
Right.
learned how to take ownership of this beautiful gift that I have within me. But before I didn't. I was just doing it for the sake of doing it. But now it's that belief that, oh, I'm fully loaded with gems within my life, fully loaded. And I'm
Yep.
just going to go out there in the world and share it, just share it with others. Because I know what I have to say, what I have to do matters, and it's going to make an impact.
Yeah. And I think the person that said that to you about not separating it, I think that was very insightful. I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind too is that you have the ability to do that because you're an entrepreneur. And so am I, and I'm blessed. I count my blessings every day, that I have my own business, and that with Ryan and I we're able to steer the ship, um, using the beacon of kindness and service. Um, where I think it may complicate things, which is I think why some people start to separate a business and personal, is that at home they can be true to themselves, but sometimes when you're working for someone else um, whose ideas and ideals don't necessarily align with yours, that's when you get the conflict of, okay, well, I need to behave in a certain way that will appease the powers that be, because this is my living, this is my income. Um, and perhaps if it was my own place, I would behave in a different manner. If, for example, Andrew had said to me, Steve, you drove out to go pick up that banner stand. We fixed it, and you're driving back out there. That's going to take hours of your time, so we're going to charge them $100. The client would have been happy with that. Like they would have paid whatever it was that that we invoiced them, because we fixed it, we did it in a timely manner, what have you. But that would not have necessarily been in line with my beliefs. And yet, I would have had to say to the client, "Yeah, this is the justification. This is the hours." So that is, I think, why some people will start to separate a little bit. And coming from a position where maybe we weren't um, entrepreneurs yet, where we had to behave in a way that was, I don't want to say duplicitous, but I like using big words, so I will use that word. But it will be, um, sometimes you do have to toe the line, so to speak, um, and so that could lead to the split. And the benefit of having your own business, as you do, means that you can actually start to bring that into alignment, which is why when you're either hiring someone or working with someone, why it's so important to make sure that your whys, your beacon, whatever you want to call it, they're in complete alignment. Because in that way you can make sure that everyone is able to act as oneself instead of being one person at home and one person at work.
Yeah, no, that's true actually. And when she said that to me, it was like, aha, moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Those I love this. We're just gonna start wrapping up now. For those who are listening, and kind of lost, the past 2 years. I don't even know where 2020 went. I'm still trying to think where 2020 went, and we're halfway through 2021 now. And there may be people who are struggling. For us, it was a little bit different. We found our way out of this chaos and pandemic and everything, and we managed to be able to put ourselves out there. There are those who are struggling. What is it that you can help them with? Maybe one or two, three things that you can help them with that could help them elevate them from where they are.
So, as someone who tries to look on the bright side of things, I will say that there is one, in my opinion, one extreme benefit to the world going through COVID-19 together, and that's that it gave us permission to communicate in an honest way about our emotions and when things aren't going well. So, pre-pandemic, if someone asked you how you were doing, your answer was typically great. Great, things are great. Oh, never better, what have you. Even if they weren't. Um, but now, if you ask someone how they're doing and they say, "Do you know I'm really struggling?" All judgment is out the window because all of us have gone through this together. And I don't know if it was actually you who said it, but someone said we're not all in the same boat, but we are all on the same ocean. Some of us have yachts, some of us have dinghies, and some of us are treading water. And and when you put it like that, uh, when someone says I'm struggling, you can actually understand that. And I do believe that COVID has been good in terms of fostering honest communication. So, in answer to your question, number one, I would say uh, talk. Talk about it. Talk about your struggles, um, and recognize that this is whatever it is in our worlds. We all go through some temporary setbacks, and if you look at it as a temporary setback, whether it's business or personal or interrelational or whatever it is, um, that it will get better. Um, so that's number one. The other one, which is let's say marginally self-serving, but um, by giving. Um, a lot of times when things happen, people say, "Oh, what can I do?" So whether it's a tragedy or just on an ongoing basis with the world, and people wonder how they can help. I discovered just by happenstance a way that I could help. Um, I was speaking with someone at a peer-to-peer group with the Chamber of Commerce, and she had mentioned that she had received a diagnosis of an illness which had been misdiagnosed for a while. And she was fortunate that she finally got the proper diagnosis. And she had an illness called CVID, not COVID, but CVID. And her treatment for that is receiving blood. And she said, "Well, you can bet that I'm going to be an advocate for donating blood." And I said, "Well, why don't we make a point of whether it's through the chamber or through BNI groups that I belong to or what have you, why don't we just make an effort to get people to donate blood, even if they've never thought about doing it before?" Um, so we created a group, they call it a partnership for life, called the Business Community Givers. And we just put it out there in the community and said, "You know what, just go donate, roll up your sleeve, and if you can, and if not, then at least talk about it and get the message out so that it is something tangible that you can do to make a difference in our community because there are people who need what we have." And I mean, I love the slogan, it's in you to give. Um, I just I find when you take a little bit of action, uh, it helps you from feeling like um, it helps you feel more empowered. and to get out of potentially a victim mentality. Just any little bit of action to give to help. It doesn't have to be donating blood, but donating blood is such a good idea, and we can, if you can do it, of course. Um, and if you do, be a partner of the business community givers, because that's kind of a cool initiative. Um, but yeah, so that would be my two things. Talk about it, and then just try to take in action to for the betterment of your world, whatever that world is for you.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. What we have is actually not for us to keep it. So we
Yep.
cannot be selfish and holding on.
Yeah, for
somebody
sure.
else, somebody else could benefit from it. So what is that you have? A skill. It could be maybe even a skill that maybe
Yep.
somebody else doesn't know. Maybe it could be an organizational skill that you have. Listen, I'm not very good at. I have what I call organized chaos.
Yeah, call Ryan. He'll help you.
See? So there's always somebody out there who is really good at something that we are not. Right?
Yep.
We're not all perfect, right? So we have gaps that others can fill.
Yep.
So find something that somebody else can benefit. And Zoom, pretty much you can do everything on Zoom, on YouTube. I'm telling you, the opportunities are endless. We don't need to be out there and doing things. We're recording this via Zoom. Two
Yep.
years ago was not something that we could actually think about. So just do something, keep yourself busy. If there's anything I can leave you with is keep yourself busy. Take some courses, just keep your mind busy. Keep your mind busy. Just do something that you're going to increase. Pick one skill that you're good at and make it even better, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I,
and
I
and
keep
I
speaking. I keep speaking. And I promised myself, Steve, I said, I'm going to do everything I can to make speaking better for me.
yep.
And that's what I'm doing. So doing this, it's increasing my speaking abilities.
Well, and I have to say, just to add to what you were saying before, I really appreciate this venue. I appreciate what what you are bringing to the world. I appreciate the positivity. Um, so so thank you first of all for putting this show together and for encouraging people to have a positive impact on the world, on their world. Um, and I think where you said just do something, absolutely do something, but be very careful of what seeds you plant in your brain, uh, because it's best if you plant whatever positive seeds you can, and surround protect your brain with positivity and things that will serve you. And that doesn't mean that you can't watch some soap operas and have a guilty pleasure and what have you, but but if you keep planting positivity in your brain, then your brain can do nothing but grow more.
Yeah, yeah. And I like
So
that because you're planting the seeds. So it could be podcast, listening to podcasts as you're driving, as you're cooking, as you're cleaning, right? Or as you're walking, just listen to a podcast that's positive. It could be watch my video, go to my website, listen to some of the audios that I put in there, but just feed your mind with something that is going to help you create that energy, that emotion, that, oh, I'm interested in learning more about this. And the more
yep.
you do that, the more you do that, the more you become more open to change and growth. Watch videos, get a book. I'm reading this book. What is it called? Lead the Field. I don't know if you had a chance to read that.
No.
Oh my goodness. It's a very small book. It's that like less than 100 pages,
Oh wow.
but it's packed with gems. I'm telling you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Lead the Field. And if you don't have it, just grab it. It's a small book, but I just read one page and I sit there and I reflect on it. Sometimes one paragraph, I will take days to go back to it and reread it. So
Okay, I'm writing it down right now. Lead the
yeah,
field.
in the field, yes. So do something, right? Just occupy your mind, read, listen to podcasts, listen, find five people who will help you influence your passion and your purpose. Just five people. And it could be, it doesn't have to be physical. Sometimes we don't have people as role models in our lives. You know, pick five people from audio, from books, from videos that you can go in and watch. You know, I go in YouTube and I just sometimes watch any person that I'm feeling. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling, I want to talk, I want to hear more about this. I go in and I find somebody, I'll Google somebody and I'll listen to it. So
Wow.
we have the ability to really load up more information and just soak it all up and refuel ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you so much, Steve, for being here. I know we've gone kind of long here, but I really appreciate you being here. I truly appreciate you sharing your gems and in your professional and your personal life, because we tend to be one sometimes, but we split ourselves. So
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and like I say, I love what you do. So keep up the good work.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is what fuels me. So thank you so much for being here and sharing this. Everyone else, please share the gems that you have learned today. If you've just taken one thing, share it with somebody else. Don't keep it to yourself. You can go into our YouTube channel, subscribe, the Gems of Life show, subscribe, like, comment, and share. And every Friday, I'm on CKMS Radio, Radio Waterloo 102.7 FM from 6 to 7. And I got a new slot every Saturday from 3 to 4. Yes, so same station. And you can find me live every Monday, 7 to 8 for 1 hour. Call in, send in your comments. There's a bunch of stuff that you can find on my website, links as well. That for my radio show, it's Love Bay Radio Show as well. I'm just honored to be in your space. Thank you again, and stay well and safe. Remember, aspire to inspire. Thank you.